JB here. Friday, May 18th, 9 a.m. Hope everybody's doing outstanding. Option expiration Friday. Talk really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. It's gonna be really fast. S&P, well, it was up 0.2%, close to 0.2% here to the upside. Back back to back. Well, we'll see how today plays out, but over the 590 handle. So I talked about at the start of the week, chopping between 580 and 590. Looked like we were going to get that yesterday. It almost looked like we were getting a sell-off. We had PPI data, which came in cooler than expected. Retail sales data was like a mixed bag. Markets were already lower. Paired some of the games on the data, and then just hit lows and looked like, oh, this could be like a 1.5% down day. And then at 10:30, we just the buyers came in. No catalyst really to speak of, and boom, markets just rallied into the afternoon. We had the I guess I was on the rant when it happened. The afternoon sell-off seems like the last 20 minutes or so is always a pull, but then markets found some footing, closed over 590, and then we were just into pre-market highs, 592.57 before a little pull here. Trump is making some comments. Who knows what's going to happen over the weekend? I'm sure there's some deals lined up. I'm sure there'll be more press conferences next week, and just hope there's some major economies that are involved so we can kind of put some of the tariff situation behind us. And now that some of that uncertainty is done, now it's like, okay, what's the uncertainty for the economic data, right? What does that all look like? How is because tariffs technically it's a tax, right? So the tariffs, you're taking money out of the economy, right? So instead of the like the 15% tariff goes into the government's coffers or whatever you want to call it, and then what is it? If it goes into tax cuts, whatever, but that's not going to be seen right away. So there's a lot of moving parts. It's funny at the headlines yesterday and the day before, it's like, oh, futures are down, markets are selling off after the enthusiasm over the US-China trade agreement over the weekend waned, right? And then sure enough, boom, we rally into the green. The NASDAQ was actually red yesterday, but would not be surprised to see some chop here today. I think if we close over 590, I would not be surprised to see 600 plus next week. Also today, we get the Make Michigan Consumer Confidence. That comes out at 10 a.m. More soft data. I think estimates are like 46 reading. I would not be surprised to see a beat on the other side. I don't know if that's going to the pad gains too. And then this I talked about yesterday afternoon. There was an article in Market Watch talking about today being it's option expiration day. So there's all these hedges that have been done over the last couple of weeks because the market had rallied in so much call volume that and open interest that the market makers had to hedge themselves. And today is like the day of reckoning. It's gonna put a halt on this big rally. I'm like, you look the same, pretty much. It's the normal amount of options expiring today, right? They might be skewed a little bit more to the call side, but it's funny. You can paint the picture. I mean, the same articles were coming out at 490 on the SPY, less than a couple of weeks ago. All right, so that's kind of the overall market. Also, right, it's funny. You take out last week's chop, and we're 4 sessions in a row in the green on the S&P, and today it could be 5. You're talking a 14 session rally. I mean, just pretty remarkable. So, and that's from like the end of April 21st. Also of note, I always try and keep the glass half full kind of situation. Amount of stock trading over there, 50-day moving average on the S&P over 2025 highs, multi-month highs, over 70%. So that just, again, the trend is your friend. So good stuff there. And then last but not least, here's the VIX. I mean, look at this bleed. Hopefully, it can get back down to 15 at some point. I think if it gets there, that's kind of like the healthy range to be a little more constructive on long-term names and go from there. All right, so now just individual names. I read it at this time yesterday. I thought maybe there was going to be a reversal at the open because it was gapping lower. Sure enough, market opens, gets down to 120. And the thing with the Reddit, the option market doesn't open right away. So even if I want to get my calls out, you have to wait. It's just frustrating. It's like we're going to go to 24/7 option trading or market trading, and we can't get the option market to open right when the regular market opens. Like, how does that make any sense, right? It's almost like, if you're a market maker, that's a way to game the system, right? You can slam the market with buys or sells, so your options are, I don't know. It's just mind-boggling to me that, especially, it's not like Reddit doesn't trade. It's not an illiquid stock and illiquid options. It's liquid, very liquid, right? I don't know where it ranks in the amount of stocks to trade, but it's up there. But anyway, so once it started to break 120, I didn't want to lose the last of my profits on the calls, and it was a great trade on Wednesday. So I closed the last of my 130s out, and then boom, from 120 all the way down to under 114 in a matter of like 30 minutes. Once it started to look like it was finding a bottom, I started looking at the calls again and said, wow, these are a heck of a lot less expensive, $5 lower increment for almost like a lotto price. So I went and got some lotto calls into today. We'll see how today trades out. I mean, how it plays out. On Wednesday, Reddit was doing the same thing. I think it was 111. It ran up to like 114 gap, and then it just took off all the way up to 119, then down to 114, and then all the way up to 129. Not saying we have a deja vu scenario set up here, but wouldn't rule out some kind of move again here today. Also of note, it's the Kramer curse, right? I didn't realize Kramer had mentioned Reddit on his Fast Money 2 days ago. So in hindsight, I probably should exit the calls right away. But again, option market wasn't open on Reddit. All right, so that's Reddit. Also, if it finds strength today, don't be surprised if I get some strikes into next week because I think that 126 break on Wednesday is huge. And then I think you start looking 136 is the next big key spot there on Reddit. Brings me to Caterpillar. So, Deere was running up. Caterpillar's a name that's been beaten up, hasn't really recouped. I mean, it's recouped a lot of its levels, but not the levels it had back in January when it was over $400. So I was looking for a trade to play on the Deere earnings, and Caterpillar's the one that comes to mind. I looked at the chart right away. I'm like, wow, this thing's right at the 200-day moving average. Once it breaks, I figured 360 would come, got some spec lottos, and then it just chopped around for the rest of the day. And then, of course, this morning, UBS upgraded the stock from sell to neutral. Hopefully, that's the kick it needs. Won't take much. Another 2 or 3% move here in the morning, and my call should be good. But just frustrating. Couldn't do that yesterday, right? All right, so that's Caterpillar. Solar Edge, it was 17 and change in the morning, turning around then at like 9, well, maybe it was 10:30. Just embarked on a quick $1 rally all the way up to 18 and change, and then just didn't look back. Over 20, almost up near 20, $21, closed at 20.84. And then sure enough, these boutique analyst firms do what they always do. They come out and downgrade the stock in the midst of a run, like kill the momentum. Drives me nuts. It's funny. It's Northland Securities. I don't even know what else they cover, but they came and they downgrade the stock back in February with a $15.50 price target. I don't see where they upgrade it back up to perform, but here they are again downgrading the stock. It's like they're a day trader, right? I like when you're an analyst, don't you analyze you analyze the fundamentals, and the earnings changed it, right? And you downgrade the stock post earnings. And they kept their price target, right? So drives me nuts. One of these reports or downgrades hopefully shakes it off. We'll see here this morning. It's gapping lower. Over the last couple months when I've traded Solar Edge, there's been downgrades. There's been upgrades too. I think Goldman Spectacular did the 2-notch upgrade. We'll see how this trades out. Frustrating. I did average down on the calls. They were solidly green at the open. Near the close. I rarely ever average down a position. We'll see how this one plays out. If you can get back over 20 and hold that, I think it bodes well into next week. June strikes plenty of time. All right, ranted too much. I don't have too much time left. ROKU still eyeing that. You had Cox and Charter. Charter announced a merger, definitive agreement. Maybe that sets the content names on fire today. So anytime it's consolidation in that sector, you have to think of some of these outlying names. I think that bodes well for ROKU. Still have the strikes in the next week. I'll just hold them. Just frustrating trade. 200-day moving average, got to get over that 72 handle. Still looking to get VKTX. August strikes, probably the August 65s. Calls expired today. Also, you had NVO, their CEO, got fired because of stock performance. I mean, it just shows how competitive that whole landscape is. And you got to think, if that heads to NVO, it's got to happen to some of these other companies that don't even have exposure to GLP-1 yet, right? So that, to me, that just means more urgency around acquiring a company with assets, which obviously VKTX, GPCR, Altimmune, so on and so forth. TripAdvisor, first red day since earnings. Still have the last of my June strikes. I locked some in on Monday. I'll just continue to hold those. And then some other names I might look at. So if the market holds 590 and I think 600 comes next week, then names, the Restoration Hardwares, the Wayfarers, the Deck, I might look to get some strikes there. Deck has earnings next week, so that could be one that I add some strikes on. And then the biotech space, right? And Biogen, last hour surge from 122 to 124. It doesn't have to move much. My 130 lottos to go, but if it shows strength over 125 today, I might go in and get some next week strikes. So one of these weeks, it's going to break out in a big way. Same with Regeneron. And that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.